What's up, guys? Welcome to Wyoming. Um, July 18th today, I believe, and getting prepped for the season. I know everybody's out there is excited, hanging stands, trimming stands back east, getting ready for those big whitetails. Hopefully, the food plots are in and everything. Out here, out in the west, it's a little bit different. Unless you own some private piece of property, you're not doing a whole lot of food plots. Mainly, what you're doing is scouting. And so, scouting and getting prepped, shooting your bow, getting ready, getting in shape so that you can hike the mountains, pack those elk out, the deer out on your back, whatever it may be. So that's kind of what I'm getting to right now. Late summer, been trying to wrap up some jobs. I do construction throughout the year. And then coming to fall, I jump into guiding full time for Dustin and Rich and Bighorn Outfitters. And I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what I had to learn being a whitetail hunter back east and moving out west and trying to um, be a professional guide. So it's been a big learning curve. There's a lot of things that you kind of have in your back pocket as a successful whitetail hunter. There's a lot of things that help out, but there's a lot of things that you just throw out the window. So I'm not going to talk about all that stuff, but I wanted to talk about 5 things that I wouldn't have thought about before coming out here and guiding. First thing that I'm going to talk about, honestly, is using your truck, using your vehicle, using your wheels, your transportation as probably one of your biggest tools, especially in the western woods. And so, as a matter of fact, right now, what I'm doing is park my truck right here. And one cool thing that my son loves to do is shoot rock chucks. So, as a matter of fact, sitting in my truck instead of hiking over a hill, obviously I can probably hike a mile and find them, or I could cover extremely more terrain in the vehicle from the truck, from a 2-track, from a main highway, whatever it may be. Use our spotting scopes, use our binos, finding those animals. So using your vehicle, your truck, as one of your biggest tools is, I think, something that I never really thought about. You always talk to people and they're talking about elk hunting, they're going to go on their elk hunt, and they're talking about going 8 miles in and doing all this hardcore stuff. And believe me, that works, and you can get into elk and there's everything, but don't overlook using your vehicle as much as you can, whether it's traveling roads and looking for deer crossing or elk crossing or glassing knobs or whatever it may be. You can cover so much more ground in a vehicle than you can on your feet. And once you get out of that truck, there's a reason why most of our interviews start from the truck. It's because we've worked our butt off from the vehicle, finding a target, and then from the truck going after it. And it's been very successful for us. And like I said, you can put in a ton of work. It's not lazy, it is smart. And you have everything here. You've got your spotting scope, you've got your binos, you've got your rifles, your bows, whatever you need in here. For those people that drink coffee, you can sit in here and drink coffee. So it's the luxurious way of starting your hunt. That's just a start of your hunt. Once you find the animal or find the sign or find the tracks or find where they're at, then the hunt really begins. So the other thing about vehicles that I would say is use them wisely. Most animals aren't insanely scared of vehicles. If a vehicle doesn't stop, if it doesn't look suspicious, they'll keep feeding. They'll stay up there. They'll do whatever. They'll be right next to the road. You see that everywhere, back east, out west, whatever. What I always say is once you find your animal from the truck, whatever you're pursuing, you can't, that animal should see a vehicle go by and think nothing of it, and the next thing it knows, it gets shot. That's how we want to do it. So what ends up happening out here is you get a lot of out-of-staters or just lazy hunters, as a matter of fact, that bail out of the truck and try to kill the animal from the truck. And as that does work every once in a while, what it ends up doing is it just makes it so much harder for the next person, because it's a learned behavior. You know, there's a lot of animals that could care less about a vehicle until they get shot at multiple times from it. And then all of a sudden, you know, obviously a lot of times that's illegal because of, depending on where you are and what you're shooting off of, if you got off the road and everything. And the other thing is, especially antelope, by the second day of rifle season here, they're very hard to kill, even with the rifle, because of people bailing out of the vehicle and running after them and shooting. But the way I like to do it is the hunt starts from the vehicle, and the next thing you know, that animal should be dead without even realizing that the vehicle was part of the reason why that hunter got to them. So that's number one. So let's grab the bow, and we're gonna go out here and fight some mosquitoes and shoot some targets, and we'll talk about the next couple ones. The next thing I want to talk about is actually a little bit more technical, and that is the way you use your cell phone, your spotting scope, your binos, to pinpoint that deer. So let's say you have found a deer. He's in a big open area, but there's a couple different cuts, and you can see him. He's down next to a cut near this one brown looking boulder. The one thing that I've learned from Dustin and Rich and everybody else who I've been around, I try to learn as much as I can, is taking a picture or video through your spotting scope. Super helpful. And what I'll do is I'll do multiple stages. So I'll actually pull out my phone and I'll take a big panoramic view from the truck. That way I can see, okay, well, it's the third biggest cut from the 2-track or something, and then I'll have a zoomed in photo or video that I can be like, okay, he's next to the really the greenest bush there. You know, there's 40 different bushes, but so that's what ends up happening is these deer, they don't always bed right underneath a big giant tree. You know, I remember Josh Sturgill, his buck that he killed several years ago, was like the only tree there, so that was an easy, really awesome stalk, and we got in there and ended up killing the deer. But most of the time they're in a lot harder things. Once you get in there, you don't even know if you can see them. So what I like to do is I like to use all as much technology as you can that you're legally allowed to help you get right over top of that deer and be able to get a shot. And it starts with you know, the optics, and then it goes to your phone. As you're stalking this deer, you can if you have any questions, you can pull out your phone, look at the picture, verify where you're at, and keep going. Number 3, especially with a client, what I've learned is that, and I always tell them, I said, this is what should happen. The chance of it actually happen are relatively slim. But if it does happen like this, we're going to do this. And if it happens like this, we're going to try to do this. So you have multiple plans of attack. Because the main thing you want is you want a good game plan going into a situation. It may not happen the way that you planned, but at least you had a plan going in. And if something deviates from the plan, you can always ad lib. So have a plan going in, and then have a couple variations of the plan. And that's what I like to do when I go in. If I have a chance to redo the plan or tell them something different, then we will once we get in there. But normally you don't have a whole lot of talking room there. So I remember with Todd Graff's hunt, you know, we had a plan. We set up a certain way. A deer was going to come a certain way. We hoped he would come. Sure enough, he came in, and as luck would have it, it worked out exactly the way that we wanted it to turn out. Now, it took a little bit getting to that point, but that's what we're talking about, is just having a plan going into it. Number 4, one thing that I think is overlooked. Obviously, everybody knows that when you're in the woods, no matter what you're hunting, you should move extremely slow. However, for some reason, in the tense moment right before the shot, or before the draw, or before the actual kill, we forget that a lot of times, and you'll see people drawing really fast, sky drawing, turning, looking. A lot of my clients, when I tell them, I'm like, I'll talk to them, and they'll move their head to listen to me. Don't move your head. Keep your head still. I've always said that. Like, you can hear me without moving your head. So staying still, we all know that. However, one thing that you start realizing is that you can actually get away with quite a bit of movement
if it's really super slow. And when I say slow, I mean as slow as possible to get to the point that you need to get to. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times you'll be at full draw and there'll be a little bush in front of you and there's a deer. You can almost get to the vitals of that deer. However, if you were to, at full draw, take a slow step to the right or to the left, you could have got that shot off. And I always say, move to whatever your angle you need your angle to be, especially when you're at full draw. When you're at full draw, you can get away with a lot. You can move because you're 2 seconds away from getting a shot. So all you need to do is get that pin on them. So if a bush is in the way, move to the left a little bit. Slowly move to the right just a little bit. Not all the time is waiting for that deer or antelope or elk or whatever. Sometimes waiting for them is not the right option. Now, obviously there's a lot of other things that come into play. You're looking at the body language, what you think he's going to do, all these other things. So it's not always the right play, but there's a lot of times where if you would have done that, you could have got that shot. And I've even killed animals before, whitetails, whatever, whitetails, elk, mule deer. They're all kind of the same. Antelope probably have the best eyes out there, and I've even been able to draw and aim on an antelope while it's looking at me, trying to figure out what I am. You know, if I'm hiding behind a rock or whatever, and it kind of came up before I thought, and just a super slow draw, and tried to get the pin on him as he's looking at me without moving, finally get into the peep sight, get it moved on him, and still execute a shot. So it's one of those things that you don't think about in the moment. I try to practice it as much as I can, do everything slow, but sometimes if you do everything super slow, you can get away with murder. So try that, see if that works for you. If it doesn't work for you, hey, I apologize, but 60% of the time it works every time. So give it a shot. That's a lot of times a last ditch, last minute, last second when you're about ready to shoot, but sometimes you can pull it off. All right, so it's getting dark on me here. I've got a little bit of shooting left to do, but number 5 is it's a combination of everything coming down to that moment of truth. And what I call it is just being ready for your moment of truth. Mentally being ready, knowing where that shot should take place, and having all your ducks in a row up until that point. So having your arrow on your bow, obviously, having your release hooked up, having your yardage dialed in, knowing that when that elk comes up on this bank, we're going to shoot him there. When that mule deer kicks out of the bottom and then comes up and you're at full draw like Josh Sturgill forever, and knowing that when he took 4 more steps, he was going to shoot him there. Rattling a deer off of a mountain top and then drawing really slowly, and then when the deer stopped, Todd Graff knew that that was his moment and that he was ready for it. He was ready to knock it down. My wife a couple years ago, last year, I can't even remember now, but shot her elk. She knew that when it stood up and she was able to get drawn, that was her moment. And we live for those moments. However, unfortunately, those little moments that haunt us are the ones that we weren't prepared for. And the best way that I can say it is just run those scenarios through your head of, this is my moment, this is where my camera is going to be, this is the yardage that he should be at, give or take 4 or 5 yards. And obviously you have to ad-lib in the hunting woods. Stuff doesn't go as planned normally. However, if you're ready for that moment of truth, when you see it, you know it. Your bow's upright, you're ready to rock and roll, and you make the shot, you execute it, you make great memories, successful hunt, and hopefully somebody's there to share it with you. So we do all that, all the prep, all the food plots, all the trimming of lanes, shooting our bow, glassing for elk, looking for antelope, shooting rock chucks with your son, all to prepare for that moment of truth when you can enjoy a successful hunt. Remember, we only have to get it right one time. Those animals out there, they got to get it right every time. And if they don't, we're on the good side there. So I'm going to get to shooting here, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully slinging arrows at something awesome and getting to hear some elk scream. And before we know it, we'll be chasing antelope August 15th. And then elk rolls in September 1st for us. and then Ohio season kicks off. I don't know if I'll make it there or not, but we'll see. So see you guys in the woods. Bow hunter die. Next thing I want to talk about is